Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about career progression. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, how can a software engineering manager help with a engineer's career progression? Well, you have to learn how to be a parent, basically, I would say. So the career progression of a software developer is an interesting thing because it's very similar, in my opinion, to raising a child or something like that, where the the idea that you can teach them a concrete skill is absolutely true, but I've always found that a better approach is to create, because you can't micromanage the growth of a child. It's something that I've had many talks with my friends about, where I mean, it does not matter how much helicopter parenting you do. Your child is a complex being, just as any human is a complex being, and in reality itself is so complicated that you can unfortunately not control it in maybe that perfect way that you would like to. But what you can control is the environment that you put your children in, just as you can control the environment that your engineers are put in. And I've always found the best thing is to sort of treat the growth and I'm a little bit sad sometimes that I have friends who sometimes they tell me that, oh, my daughter, she's yeah, no, my oldest daughter, I really click with her, and she's this awesome sports person, and she loves this and that, and she's so easy to deal with. But my youngest daughter, she needs so much attention, and she's insecure about what other people think, and so forth and so forth. And so I try to talk to sometimes, and we discuss this, and I say, is it possible that you're allowing your own sort of, your personal strength? Maybe the problem isn't your daughter. The problem is that you don't have an effective way of relating to your daughter, which means that instead of trying to figure out what are her strengths and what is the sort of environment she will do really well in, you're trying to make her into your oldest daughter, or you're trying to put her in a box which feels comfortable for you, so that you feel that you can be of help to her. And in those sorts of situations, I like to say to people that one of the toughest decisions that you can make, as I argue at the very least, when you're going to help someone like that, help a child, is to figure out if you are the right teacher or not. Because as a parent, the love part and like loving your children and so forth, that is it should come with the job, right? But when it comes to a child's education, you really have to think about, you have to put the like you have to be very honest with yourself, and you also have to understand the child that you are dealing with. Engineers are the same way. As a engineering manager, you cannot take the stance that, well, I'm going to turn this software developer into something that they're not, because some software developers, they simply do not have the skills or the aptitudes for the thing that you might need at a given time. I work with different sorts of software developers, and I can even tell my managers when I do tech leading and so forth, where I have a team, and I can say the composition we have of people right now is heavily towards the engine type. We don't actually have anybody who can take on creative work, or we don't have anybody who can drive initiatives and like connect with stakeholders and help the product development, like the POs and so forth, do anything. Like we're in this very bad situation where there is no software developer who has the social skills to actually manage the product's perspective and the engineering skills. We only have people who want to sit and code all day. We have code monkeys, all of them, and that is a big flaw. And sometimes we have the reverse, like where we might have people we have too many, as I like to call them, fluff people. Like they don't understand what good results are, or rather they don't care enough to, or are unable to really, because people are different. Some people get motivated by seeing results and seeing progress, and some people are just there for the journey. And you need to have an understanding of your situation and sort of which composition you need of people. And so when you're helping an engineer progress, and progress their career, you sort of have to be in tune with what type of person are you dealing with, and what would be a beneficial environment for them to be in, and then sort of put them in that environment and observe. Similar like with children, where if you put them in a sandbox next to other children, look at them. How do they behave? Put them in a sports team. How do they behave? Put them in the chess club. How do they behave? It's sort of the same thing. It's a journey of discovery, and you're going with your child or your engineer on this sort of journey where you're trying to figure out how they're dealing with this dynamic situation. Because I've never found, I mean, sure, you can do the sheep thing and you can sort of say, how do you want to improve your skills? Which is a ridiculous thing that engineering managers sometimes do, which is like, yeah, ask them about this thing that they want to do, and they go, yeah, I want to learn more about React, for example. Cool. And then you buy them some courses, and then they take 2 courses, and then they don't continue. Because it's a spur of the moment thing. Guys, we have an obesity problem in most of the world. Most people can't even manage up the personal ambition to go for a walk for 30 minutes a day or something simple as that. Do you think that it's likely that you buying your software developers a bunch of courses is going to make them into superstar programmers? There are people who do actually do this, but most of the time you're wasting your money. If you look at the metrics, you're going to see that there's not that many people, most likely, who are actually leveraging this sort of these sorts of investments. And that's why I tell people education and like these extra perks when it comes to improving yourself it's a symbiotic relationship. But when it comes to putting people in an environment, that's a whole different story. So what I suggest that you do is that if you want to help your software developers to progress their career, understand at what stage are they right now. Where are they in their personal development? So if you're dealing with someone who is like extremely junior, let's say that they're just learning how to code, well, these sorts of people you need to put in an environment usually where they have access to more experienced software developers who will take the time to pair program with them. That's going to be the best thing for them, probably. If you have a mid-level who is sort of like just sort of doing things, that is a person you might want to put in a tech lead position or a position of some type of like a collaboration where they don't just do the coding but rather help them, put them in a situation where they have a slight responsibility for the end result, where now they realize that code is about more than code. Now they realize that they actually have to be able to manage stakeholders and explain technical concepts and then sort of figure out the business perspective so that they can write the software, if that makes sense. Because otherwise it might go, you can go that route, but you can also, if you have a person who's not really into that sort of thing, then it might be that they have to take more responsibility in an area a bigger part of the stack. Maybe you put them in an environment where they need to set things up in ops or things like that, something that enhances their skills as a professional. And for seniors, it's the same sort of deal, right? If you have you need to play it by ear, like what type of senior are you dealing with, what are their strengths and weaknesses, and what would benefit them at a personal level, what would make them be able to yield more results, and put them in an environment where they have to sort of figure those sorts of skills out. In a sense, you can think of it as teaching a child to ride a bicycle. You have to put them on the bike. It's going to be wobbly, but they have to sit on it to learn how to ride, just as they need to do a lot of stuff by trial and error and so forth. But you have to so by just putting them in that environment and making sure that they sort of, they're gonna fall over, they're gonna hurt themselves and so forth and so forth, but you as the parent or the tech lead or whatever, as long as you are there helping them through that journey, they're going to grow as a result of just experimenting in that environment. So what I want you to take away from this is that I believe that the best way an engineering manager can help the career progression of a software developer is to learn who are you dealing with, where are they in their career, what type of personality are you dealing with, what are their strengths, their weaknesses, etc., etc., and put them in an environment where they need to develop skills that they may not have or that are underdeveloped. It is, in my opinion, a more dynamic and more holistic way of dealing with education for people who like engineers and children or so forth and so forth, because there are some skills that has to be taught, like you have to laser focus on a specific skill, and sometimes you have an engineer who's like, I really want to learn machine learning. Okay, then that is the path forward. But on average, it's not, in my opinion, like holistically developing a person is much more about giving them challenges, very dynamic challenges from a context or an environment that is maybe not what they're usually doing, and see how they react. And because that's both going to put them in a situation where they have to develop new skills, and it's also going to teach them something about themselves. It gives them that organic exposure, because if you do that, I've always found that software developers who usually don't really think or care so much about the benefits of the company or like how things work, you put them in a few meetings or make it very normalized for them that they hold the stand up, or that they go on like these business talks and so forth once in a while. It's almost like they start to realize that, wow, actually there's a lot of stuff going on here, and my thoughts are actually valuable in a bigger context. I'm more, quote unquote, than just a code monkey. That has a very positive benefit. And the same thing goes for people who are traditional engine types who just want to focus on the tech. If you give them responsibilities and you sort of increase the area which they have to sort of be able to manage, usually they rise to the occasion. And the people who don't, you can't help them because they are not interested in growing in that particular direction, and in some cases not at all. And then you, as I like to say, what you have is someone who's already decided that this is as far as I'm gonna go, and you keep them around for as long as they're useful. Have a great day.